Well, all right then. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome in. We're live. Is that you see that? Is it Seacross? Is that how you pronounce that? Cycross. Cycross. Excited to catch the beginning of this stream. It's been coming along great from what I've seen. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming in. You were the first. Sometimes it's like a competition to see who gets in first on the chat, but you made it. You're it. Good to have you. Thanks for joining. So yeah, we're going to do some figure painting, and these are some tiny ass figures, 172 scales, pretty small. So we'll be making good use of the magnifiers or the adjustable ones, which go up to 4 times if I really need to get in close, which I probably will. So I did some airbrushing on the faces, so I got the skin tones down, and now I'm going to hand paint everything else around them. So, oh, you know what? I just realized my fan is off. Let me turn on the thing. Why is it so warm in here? Get it at the high speed. Get some air moving around in here. It's kind of warm still. In the afternoon, this side of the house gets all the sun, so it kind of gets warm back here. But anyway, welcome in. This is part 18 of this 172 scale Atreides Ornithopter. And so I finished all of the dry pigments, and I can give a quick look at that, and then we'll get into doing the figures. So I got the figures here on you can see them on these little clamps, just basically holding the resin bases of all of them. It makes it easier to paint. Since they're already black, I'm going to be just highlighting really just their uniform, their suits are those. If you've ever seen the movie, the suits, recycle all the water, the fluids that the body loses through sweat and stuff like that. So you can last a long time in the desert. So they're mostly black, but they're kind of being worn. They're a little gray and kind of dirty in some areas. So that's mostly what they're going to look like. But the faces, I had to airbrush that first, so then I could use some of my Warhammer Citadel skin tones. It's like a thinner water-based fluid that goes in and highlights all the darker areas. So it kind of brings out the highlights of the faces, and I'll see if I can get a close-up of them anyway, so you can see. But they're pretty small. Some subtle version with there is some subtle version with each character. What are we talking about? Talking about the figures. Yeah, these are recreating a scene in the film in part 1 of the remakes, obviously the Dune remakes, not the originals. I don't even remember when the originals came out, but there's a scene there where they go flying in the Ornithopter, and they come across a harvester, and there's a worm sighting, and they try to remove the harvester to safety, and the aircraft that basically essentially pick up the harvesters, one of them fails, can't pick it up, so they got to evacuate. And at one part, the main character of the film starts to kind of have daydreams because the spice is getting to him, and he's in the sand. And so Josh Brolin's character has to run out and save him. So when they take off again, you've got two of them on the ramp here going in through the back, and then you've got the other 2 in the front. One is piloting the Ornithopter, and the other one's a female who's sitting in the seat to his rear left and looking out the windows on this side. So and she's a black lady, so her skin is darker, and so I had to use a different color than just the regular flesh tone, so to make it suitable. And I think I picked, well, what I did is I used mahogany, and it came out really, really well, actually. And I'm also going to use that for some of their whoever's got brown hair. I think the main character, he's got brown hair, but it's more like there's light streaks in it. So I'm going to do some highlights with some of the Tamiya Weathering Masters. I could probably use that yellow again. Doctor having the lightest, and we're most worn suit, Paul's being the darkest, newest. I gotcha. I see what you're saying. Yeah, they're all going to pretty much look the same, especially because they're just dusty and dirty up by this time. They've worn them outside. They're running around, except for the pilot. He's the emperor basically. I think he's the emperor, or is that what they call him? I don't know. I'm trying to remember now. Anyway, he's piloting the Ornithopter and never really gets out of the seat when all this is going down. So I will start with showing you guys the faces. Now, not all these have all the hair painted yet, so you're going to see some overspray, but that will be touched up by hand here in a minute. So this is the son of the pilot. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Here we go. That's actually pretty good. So you can see how that flesh tone, those Citadel paints and gray hair. Yeah, most of them, except for the kid here. He didn't have gray hair, but the others did. The other two men did. The woman, she's got just black hair. It looks like I didn't see a lot of gray in that, so probably won't have too much in there. But you can kind of see these prints are really, really well done. These resin prints are really well done. But his hair has got overspray in it there. You can see on the side of his head. So I'm going to have to paint that. But I like the way that flesh tone really brings out the details of each one of these faces. So this is Josh. No, this isn't Josh Brolin's character. This is the pilot. So this would be his father, the emperor there. And I've still got he's got helmet on with microphones coming on each side. There's some headgear that I've got to finish painting. So here's the female character in the seat behind him. And so I've still got to paint her hair as well. And then last but not least, this one is Josh Brolin's character. So he's on the ramp, basically helping the kid up into the back there. So still got to put some gray in his hair. I was actually just painting the hair black, and then I was going to do some gray highlights. And I'm actually just using gray from one of these and a brush, a small little thin brush, to bring out some of those highlights, those darker areas on their suits. So while we're here, I might as well show this. So I took the canopy back off so I could glue the control panel in for the pilot. I had it glued in originally, but from taking this on and off so many times, I actually broke it off accidentally. So I had to re-secure it. So that's on. All the sand is done. You can see there's more up here on top. I finished all that. Some on the sides. So all the pigment portion of it is actually finished. Now you can see straight through. Let's see if I can get it the right angle here. Straight through down the ramp in the back. And the reason that the seat in the front right there that you're looking at does not have seat belts is because that's where she's going to sit. Now, if I can get the seat belts that I have to fit around the resin figure to still look like she's in the seat with them on, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try, but it's probably going to be difficult. It's not. I don't think the photo etch was intended to have anybody in the seat, so I may just have to have her seated without the seat belts on. So, but that's looking down that way. Now, if we look through the back here, it's kind of hard to see. There's not a lot of light, but looking forward from up the ramp, you can see there's dust and dirt on the ramp as well. Could probably put a little bit more on the end here, but either way, I think it looks good the way it is. So setting this aside, all the wings are done too. So they've all got their weathered highlights on those, but we'll put those in last. So I'm going to move the Ornithopter aside here, and we're going to start painting. So I think I'll start with the main character, the sun, the youngest one. That's awesome. Thank you. Space Kitty. Space Kitty's back. What's up, buddy? Hi, bro. Sorry I can't make it, busy working. Uh-oh. All right. Well, have a good one, bud. Thanks for stopping in and just popping in and saying hi. Good to have you. So I'm going to start with the brown and just paint the highlights, or paint the hair the solid color, and then I'll get into the highlights later when that dries. It shouldn't take too long. These are all lacquers. I talk about this a lot because I hand paint with lacquers, even though I do have some enamels that are for like basic primary colors: red, blue, white, black, things like that. I don't have a bunch of acrylic paints anymore for hand painting, so I do paint with acrylics. I do paint with the lacquers, and I've discovered that thinning them properly is the way to, you can get around that. You do have to work a little quickly because they will dry pretty fast, but you can hand paint with lacquers. I don't do large surfaces because obviously you're going to have brush strokes and stuff like that. So it's mostly for just doing detail painting like this. Cross says, I would leave it off in the end. I would leave, wait. What are we saying? I would leave it off ends being blown off the wings. Oh, you talking about sand and stuff like that? Or you, what do you mean the wingtips? Is that what are you talking about, the sand and stuff? What's up, George? George is in. Lacquer and oils for figures might be a great way to go. Yeah, well, I'm using lacquers. I have a few oil brushers, but I don't use oils regularly. I think something I'll probably end up buying in the future and having a collection of oil, oil paints that you can put on a palette and paint some stuff with. But usually I just use pigments and other things to in conjunction with lacquers to paint the small details. I'll be using the yellow probably on this. I'm going to try it and see how it comes out for the hair highlights on the kid, because his hair is brown, but it has some light streaks in it. So I think I can get away with that. We'll see what that looks like. But I am going to have to bust out the eye adjusters here. Now these are adjustable magnifiers that go from 0.5, I think, 0.5 to 4 times magnification. I've talked about these quite often. Every time I build a kit, I end up bringing these out at some point. There's lenses that move in and out. There's little dials here on the sides. When they're all the way in, it brings it full time, 4 times magnification. When they're all the way out, it's like 0.5 or something like that. Dwayne. Oh, that's who it is. I forgot. It's been a minute. Mike is trying to go blind. Yeah, I am going to go blind. I've been putting down a lot of marking tape in the shop at work, and I'm using lasers and stuff like that to get straight lines. And I think I'm getting blinded by the damn lasers. But so anyway, with 4 times magnification, I can get in pretty close and see these. So I'm really impressed by the prints on these because they're really well done. There's a lot of good details. The figures that came with the kit were just in a seated position. So this was a resin upgrade along with the photo etch that I bought to do the whole interior and cut the interior and redo all that, plus some external highlights like the ramp. There's other photo etch pieces that added detail to the ramp and other things like that. So anyway, we'll get started. Oh, I wanted to bring this up too. I forgot. We were talking a couple weeks ago when I showed off the new, what's going to be the next project after this is a commission project for that resin figure from Ghost in the Shell. So we were talking about primers, and I talked to a couple people about what primer they would use for skin tones, because this will be the first time I've ever delved deep into anime type style skin tone, trying to get realistic looking skin tones but because the figure is, for lack of a better term, half naked, right? But she's a robot android form. Pink, yes, this is exactly what that is. I was going to talk about it. So this is from Guy Notes, and this is a pink surfacer from Guy Notes called Nazca. It was recommended to me, and I found out that Amazon had it, and it was easy to get. So I ordered a couple bottles, and looking forward to using this. I've always been really happy with Guy Notes primers and and clear coats. So that's some good stuff. Yeah, there was the guy that I'm doing the commission for. he had actually he had some. He was going to let me use it, and by that time, I just realized that Amazon had it, and I was like, yeah, just keep it. I'll just buy some because I'll end up using it for myself anyway later. So there's no reason. Giovanni popped in. How you doing, Giovanni? I'm trying to go back and watch the past video. Oh yeah, yeah. It's good to catch up. I mean, I haven't been doing, especially because I just got done with the Renaissance Fair. So there was 5 weekends where all my weekends are preoccupied with all that. But now that's over. All the gear's put away for the season, and so now I can get back to this. So I'll be able to do some more weekend work and stuff like that, and actually get more done. It was kind of hard to do that during the week. I got very little done during the weeks, and then so I made some progress before the live streams, but most of the work was done right here at the bench. It's weird, but then again, welcome to the algorithm. What? I'll try to go back and watch the past videos that you posted. Oh, good for the algorithm? Yeah, it's always good. So anyway, I'm just going to do some brown here, and he has rather long hair and kind of flowing locks, so I'm just going to go over that, and this will dry out rather quickly, and then I should be able to get back to this before the stream is over and actually do some highlights. So I airbrushed the faces. Again, I airbrushed them. And then he's also got some kind of hair blowing in his face too, which is, you can see that in the print. It's really well done. So I airbrushed the faces. There's a little bit of overspray, but not a lot. Just basically got the faces covered. And then I did some, I used some of my Citadel flesh tone. It's rather thin flesh tone, and that gets into all of the lower areas like the eyes, and it brings out all the details of the face, like the cheekbones and the nose, and you can basically adjust how much you want in one place. You can use your brush to kind of wick out the excess. So if you get too much in there, you can take it out, and it'll just, you dry the brush a little bit and it'll wick out that excess until you get the right tone. So I've got a really nice looking face now. The skin tone looks good. You know, just using this mahogany to color his hair, and then as a base color, and then I'll go back over and highlight it. So yeah, I'm running full 4 times magnification. That's the only time I can really see all of this because it is very, very small. Again, this kit is at 172 scale, so these figures are at 172 as well. And I've got a little bit to do in front here. Just under just like the brow or the forehead. There we go, that's better. All right, so I got a little bit right in front. Again, the wind was blowing pretty good, so this figure was modeled after, basically sitting on the ramp with his hair kind of blowing in the wind. So there's some kind of blowing across his face on the right side of his face, and it blows out to the left side of his face. Got one ear exposed, but that's kind of highlighted with that flesh tone. So I'm going to bring this up and show you. See if you can see this. Oh, George is out too. George's got to go. Oh, I gotta go watch this in the AM. Everything looks amazing. Thank you. Oh, later. Oh, okay. So Dwayne was saying goodbye to George. Anyway, let's see if I can get this close enough where it will focus on the face. I don't know if you can see. I'm trying to get as close as possible, but these faces are really, really detailed. So you can see there's some nice shadowing under the chin, around the neck. That's what that flesh tone does from the Citadel stuff. It's really good for this kind of thing. It makes it really easy to shade a face or any kind of skin tone. Looks good. Yeah, I'm glad you guys can see it. It is so small, so I'm hoping the camera gives it good justice. So the other figures have black hair or with gray in them because they're old men. So I've already done those in flat black. I'm going to highlight those with some gray in a few here, but I don't know if the lady, I'm trying to think if she had gray hair in her hair. I know she's a black lady, so the hair is obviously very dark, but I don't remember there being any gray in it in the movie. If anybody can, actually, I've got a picture of her. Let me see if it shows up in the photo. I took some screenshots for reference for this kind of stuff because I wanted to see what their suits look like and get all the details. So let me open up the phone here and I'll show you a screenshot. Okay, so this is the lady I'm talking about. So, whoops. So I don't think I'm not going to be able to get close enough to do the eyes that blue, but see, I don't see a lot of gray in her hair. It's mostly just kind of dreads a little bit and black. So I think that's all I'm really going to get. And this is actually in the seat. This is during that scene when they're flying out, and so she's kind of flying. So she's got a lot lighter stuff on. The suit that she's modeled in the resin figures doesn't have that kind of over draped robe on. It's just the suit that she's wearing underneath it. So I am going to make it pretty light, though. You can see it's pretty light gray considering how worn it is. So we'll use this as a good reference. So sometimes it's good to just watch a movie like this. What I do sometimes, if I can't find a good screenshot online, I'll just watch the movie and pause it and take photos of the stuff. So see, here's her figure. Yeah, and she's just in her bare suit. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It's going to be a little bit hard to see because it's all black, but you can see her face a little bit. But her hair is black. All I really need to do is just take care of the overspray on her hair, which I think I've already done. I went ahead and did that in black, so I could highlight it a little bit, but I think all I really have to do is just go over the suit with the gray, which is what you'll see what I'm talking about here. This is what I did with Josh. This is the pilot, not Josh Brolin's character, but so just by going over it with that Weathermaster, all I did was kind of highlight with the, I used a brush, just a regular hand brush with the gray from the set E. Just this brush right here. And this is, it's not terribly small, but it's a Citadel starter brush. It's a really cheap kind of piece of crap brush that I don't, care if it gets damaged at all. But just by adding those little gray highlights, you can see all of I might have to actually add more, but I thought about using some gray panel line accent color on them, but I think this is probably the best way to go because it won't oversaturate those low areas with. I don't want those shadow. I want the grooves and stuff to be darker, whereas the higher surfaces will be the more worn, lighter surfaces. So I think if I use the panel line color, it'll reverse that effect. That makes sense. Thanks, George. I appreciate it. So, but first, I've got to wet the palette, man. It's been hot at work, and the air conditioner in the shop has been down for a year. So we're all trying to stay hydrated. But it's been warm, and I've been crawling around on my hands and knees quite a bit, doing all the taping and making the shop look organized and clean. And so far, it's coming out very, very well. I've had really good success with it. So one of the things that I talked about earlier about the cockpit and the pilot seat. So the pilot seat's not glued in. I've got that sitting here. This little guy. So what I'll end up doing is when I get ready, I'm going to glue him in the seat, and then I can judge how far forward to mount the seat, because I want his foot, or his feet, I should say, in the pedals. They should sit nicely in the pedals here, but I've got to basically cut him off of this base. But I don't want to do that till the last minute, because obviously it's easier to paint when I've got him still attached to the resin base. So once we get to that point, I don't think we're going to get there tonight, but we'll see. I can glue him in, and then I can actually put his arms on, because his arms are going to be out grasping the controls. So in order for me to figure out how far forward the controls go, I've also got to get him in the seat. So it's kind of like a step-by-step process to get the right distance from the control panel and the pedals, and then his arms in the right position for the levers. So these are the original levers from the kit, and I had to cut them off because I did glue them in originally before I knew about this photo etch set. I was just building it out of box. And so these have got to go in. They come up a little bit, go forward, and then they come back up with the handles that the pilot grabs onto. So I've got to make sure that those are glued in the right distance, right place, so the hands are in the right position. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but just a little bit of trial and error, doing things step by step in the right order, and then we should be able to make it look nice. So I've got a little bit of some touch up to do on the suit on this. Around his neck, there's a little bit of overspray I can see close to his face. So we're going to do some careful touching up here before we get to the highlighting portion of it. So I'm just going to mix up this flat black. This has already been pre-thinned. I've used this bottle quite a bit, so whatever was left in the airbrush was already thinned, was poured back in here. So this bottle is mostly, it's actually thinner than I would probably use something to hand paint, but not quite after mixing it up quite a few times. It works really well. It's almost the perfect little bottle to use for hand painting. So now that I've got these magnifiers on, I can really see what I'm doing up close. I just got to be very careful not to get his face, because there's really not an easy way to go back and re-airbrush the face. I can always touch up the stuff around it by hand, but I don't want to get excess paint on the face. Right now we're also letting that mahogany dry. So when it comes time to do those highlights, we'll be able to use the applicator. Will probably work just fine. So there's this face mask on these suits that kind of hangs around their neck when they're not in need of the mask. They kind of pull it off, and it kind of just hangs around their neck. So that's what I'm kind of painting those highlights, or those straps that kind of hold that chin piece down. I may have to adjust the camera. Let me know if I'm not in camera, if I'm doing this too much off camera. It means I'm out of adjustment, because I'm pulling in tight so I can see, because I'm trying to get as close to my body, you know what I mean? Okay, so that's pretty good. I think we've gotten all of the overspray, it looks like, from painting the face. Had to go back over and do the suit in black in those areas that ended up getting a little bit of flesh tone overspray. So I'm going to check each one of these, because I did touch these up already, but I wasn't using my really close magnification. Josh's character here, he's almost wearing his mask. He's got it off, but you can still see his face. It's going to be a challenge to get, because he's got a kind of a goatee, but it's all gray. The hair on his face is gray, and it's really tucked in close to this mask. But you can still see it. You can kind of see his mustache. You can't really see his chin, but his mustache is clearly molded into the resin print, the resin mold, and yeah, so it's going to be a challenge. It's got really, really small details. It might almost be worth his hair's done, but it might almost be worth using a brush again and just trying to almost dry brush his eyebrows and his mustache, the mustache part of his goatee, because it is so small. I don't know if I can get in there. It's going to be tight with a brush, but I'll make it right. I'll make it perfect. The other challenge with the pilot here is because he's got two microphones that come around each side of his face. So each one of those has to be those booms, like a boom microphone. They come around each side of his face. And I can show you that again in another screenshot that I took. So here is, here's the back of his head. So this is looking at the back of the pilot's head. So you can see all of there's two like boom mics on either side. And then, oh, here's a good close up of all their suits. You can see how worn they are. Let's see. So, okay, so here's the side. So there's like one of these microphones on either side. So there's going to be quite a bit to paint that's on his face, because those microphones are really close to the face, and then there's the other side. Very similar. So a little bit of detail work that has to go into the pilot for sure. As you can see, those booms, the boom mics going right to each side of each cheek, like right next to his mouth. So each one of those is going to have to be painted. So I think what I'll do is I'll start with the black, because most of the helmet is black, but then there's some gray, highlights. I'm sorry if I'm missing anything on the chat. I'm trying to keep my eyes on it, but obviously this is very, very, very touch and go work. You got to really be careful with the brush. And it's okay to do touch-ups and stuff, but I really do prefer to only do it one time if I can help it. So I'm going to try to get, this is one of the smallest brushes I have. So I'm going to try to get this boom mic. There we go. It's almost like you have to kind of do it like you kind of do your brush stroke, but you get as close as you think you need to be just to transfer paint, but you don't quite touch the model, so you have to just keep the same motion, go a little bit closer until you do make that contact. See what I'm missing right now. I'm getting close, but I don't want to put too much on, because as soon as you get too much, then it gets on the face. There we go. Perfect. That came out perfect. So I'm going to do this other side again. I got a little bit more I got to get just on here. I think I'm not even going to worry about trying to do his facial hair first, because he also has, his beard is very, very black, but it also has quite a bit of gray in it. So I may just I may just start with the gray and then do some darker highlights after that. But he's also got so much on his headgear, his helmet, or whatever he's wearing. It's not really a helmet, but it's more of just like a big headgear, kind of headphones and microphone set up on his head. Gotta run. Somebody's looking. Gosh, these are so damn small. I will go blind. All right, I think we're ready. I know that mahogany color on the kid's face is going to be dry enough now that I can do some highlights. But I think I'm going to use the brush just like I did with gray. I'm going to use a brush. Actually, I'm going to clean it first. Yeah, just to get a little bit of that pigment off. Should be able to use it. Just clean it in this lacquer thinner. I'm using lacquer thinner to clean my brushes. But that's just to get the excess pigment off that. I'm going to let that dry out a little bit, and then we'll take that that master weathering master set E, and we'll use some of that yellow to do some highlights on his face or on his hair. So this applicator is small, but these are so small I won't be able to control it as well. I just want to be able to kind of touch and just get a little bit of this pigment on, and then brush it onto the hair, and that'll highlight these eye spots. And this stuff comes off pretty easily, so it's just a matter of, it's almost a dry brush effect, but I'm using this weathering master to give me those highlights. I've actually seen other modelers use brushes, they don't even use the applicators, they just go straight to brushes. Yeah, this is going to look nice, I think. I'm just going over this. It's like I said, it's almost like a dry brush effect. So it's highlighting the high points, leaving the dark brown underneath it. So it kind of looks like sandy blonde streaks in his hair, which is what he had in the movie. I am really impressed by these prints. I mean, actually, they're not even prints. These were molded resin. So either somebody printed these and then they did a mold of them and recast them in resin, or somebody sculpted this. But to sculpt something this small, it's crazy. And have it look this good. These are some really good resin figures. The detail is just amazing. So just adding more of this yellow. It'll lighten his hair up, but also leave those dark areas. The grooves and stuff will light up even better. They'll highlight even more because of the it looks great. So let me go a little bit more here, and then I'll bring it up so everybody can see what I'm doing. Okay. So here, let's look at the difference now. So see if we can get this to focus again. So now as I rotate this around, you can see the back of his head. So just rather than that straight brown, you've got the little bit of those highlights. There we go. Get it close as possible there. So I think that worked well. Okay. So now, guess what I can do is I can clear this off, and then I can use the gray. I'm going to do the same thing with the suits now, but I'm going to do that with the gray. So I'm going to clean the brush again just to get that yellow pigment out. Shouldn't take much. Let the brush dry off a little bit. So George, what are you working on nowadays? I know it's been a while since I've been able to watch any of your live streams. Building something old? Or something new? Giovanni says, I was amazed when I saw the figures you painted on the Macros kit. Yeah. They're about the same. Well, those are 148, so they're about twice as large as these. So, yeah, they're still small, for sure. And I've done quite a few of those. In fact, I've even painted a few macro, not. I should say a few Gundam pilots. Like I did an old like full armor unicorn, one of the master grades a long time ago, and I hand painted the pilot to look like a Macross pilot in there, even though no one would ever see him because he's all covered. He's inside, but I know he's there. Yeah, I have fun doing those stuff like that, but definitely takes a little bit of work. So this technique is working out brilliantly. I'm really satisfied with it because not only are these molds so good, they highlight the detail so well, but by using this gray and just going over and kind of dry brushing these, it's really bringing out every single little panel line, for lack of a better term, that's in these figures. It makes all the edges look worn. I mean, it actually makes it pretty easy to paint because their bodies are completely covered nearly from head to toe. They're wearing gloves. So their hands are covered. You don't have to worry about any flesh tone there. It's basically just their faces, and then the rest is done in these nearly all black suits. So as long as there's no mold lines or anything that you have to, like I did have to deal with some flashing because when they molded these, there was like a very, very thin film in between their legs, most of them, because the way they did the molds to make sure there was no defects or anything like that. It's a thin little sheet of resin that you have to kind of cut out of those areas between. Yeah, this is crazy how detailed these are. I'm going to show this one off here to get done. I'm just kind of going over it. You won't see some of this because it'll be in the seat, but there's still an arm that I have to glue on to this because she's kind of seated like she's looking out the window, so she's kind of turned a little bit. But let's see if you can see some of these details. Bring this up in focus. Rotate this around really slowly. So just Come on, focus on the figure, not my. There we go. There's a good one. So just looking at the detail, this looks so amazing. Get it to focus. Yeah. Looks good. And all that was just using a little bit of that pigment and just kind of dry brushing it on. So I'm going to go back. I'll have to go back and touch these up, obviously, a little bit once I glue their arms on and stuff. But especially the figures on the ramp, because that's going to be a challenge. I've got to get Josh's character to kind of be standing on the ramp. They're both, his arm is extended and holding the arm of the other figure, the kid, trying to stay on the ramp. So positioning those and getting their arms in the right position is going to be the trickiest part on that ramp. So I'm just going to go over and kind of dry brush this one. Do the same thing, and then it's just a matter of clipping these off of the base that they're on, making sure their feet are nice and flat, sand a little bit if necessary, and then gluing them down. George says, I'm still working on the old Gawk. Oh, is that a Z-Gawk or it's just called a Gawk? Or World War II plane kit bash. Scrap building arms. Oh, nice. That's cool. So yeah, I wasn't sure what I was going to build next. I was thinking about doing that male power armor that I just got for the Macross series, but the commission popped up again. I actually talked to the guy about a year ago, and I thought he maybe forgot about it or decided not to do it because I hadn't talked to him in a while. So I just kind of moved on and started thinking about other things. And then all of a sudden one day, it's like, hey, man, you still want to do that? Hell yeah. The base on that resin kit is 12 inches round. It's about an inch and a half, maybe an inch and a half thick of solid resin. It is this big, heavy, massive resin base. And cleaning it's going to be interesting. I don't even know if I have a bucket, or anything. I need a container large enough to put the whole thing in so I can soak it overnight in purple power. I can do the small parts well enough. I think I've got some kind of a bin. I think my wife gave me a kind of a large Tupperware, rectangular shape thing that was going to be kind of old and be tossed, and she gave it to me so I could use it for cleaning parts, and I think that'll work fine for the small stuff. But the base is this massive thing, and it's gonna take some take something big enough, take some engineering to get it soaking overnight, because that's the key. I mean, any primer will work on resin, but the whole key is to get it cleaned and all the mold, any kind of mold release off of it as best possible, so the paint will stick as best possible. All right, so here is now Josh Brolin's character. So that's obviously without arms. All these guys don't have arms right now. But yeah, just the detail on these suits with those highlights and using that pigment to kind of dry brush these, it really, really works well. Add out a little bit of dust, but I think it looks pretty good the way it is. Last but not least, the kid here. Do a little bit of gray on him. Of course, I'll have to touch him up after I get their arms down and get them in the right position. It's one of those things like, I don't know what's easier. Do I glue them down like this and then try to attach their arms later in the right position? Or do I try to glue them on first and then place them in position on the ramp? I don't know what the easiest course is, because it's going to be a challenge either way to get their hands and stuff in the right position, right distance away from whatever they're holding on to make it look right. This guy's in such a long forward stretch, position. His knee is way up in front of him because of this, the position he's standing in. His heel is, one leg is like his front leg here is flat on the ramp, whereas this one is kind of, his toes are basically the only thing on the ground. His heel is up off the ramp. So that's another thing. It's like I got to be able to sand these in a nice even plane, so when I go to glue them on, they sit flat. I don't want to try to fall over. That's pretty good. Okay. Where are we at? All right, so I'm going to clean the brush here, and then we'll show the final figure here, what it looks like. I think this brush is the perfect choice. It's cheap, but it's not too small, not too large. It's good for transferring this kind of pigment in those tight areas. So here's the kid. Let's see if we can get into focus there. A lot of good details on these. For such a small scale, it's impressive. That's one thing Green Strawberry did right, is they got these figures down. And it was 2 separate sets. So you had the photo etch set and then the figure set. So you could have done just the photo etch. You didn't have to buy both. The figures were a separate set. But man, well worth it. Well worth it. See, and here's the regular. All the figures that came in the kit, they're all seated, hands at their sides, just boring, normal model type positioning. That's just like even the Millennium Falcon I built years ago. It was like all the figures are just sitting with their hands on their hips, hands on their knees, straightforward. No character to them, nothing, no life. They just look like robots. What are you working on, Giovanni? If you're still here, I think you are. Cool deal. Okay, so let's see here. I need to do some more paint on the pilot here. I got to look at, I think I'm going to do, this is dark gray. There's some gray highlights on his headgear, his, the microphones and the headphones he's wearing. So I think I'm going to try to do that with this. This is 31. It's a dark gray number 1 looks like. Mr. Color number 31. And then, you know what I actually might do too is I could try to glue her in the seat, but I think I got to do a little bit more work on her before she's done. I still got to try to highlight the face a little bit, because even though she's a darker skin tone, she still has some highlights. So I might actually go back over and try that with a little bit of this yellow, just to lighten up some of the higher highlights, like her nose, cheekbones, maybe just a little bit. I'm not going to go too overboard, but yeah, that's working nicely. So it's just kind of highlighting the cheekbones, eyebrows a little bit, nose. While leaving their eyes a little bit darker because those are recessed. So yeah, let's see if we can get a close up of that. You can see what. So yeah, now you can see her face a little bit better. Before it was just brown, but now we're just adding a little bit of highlight. See, will it focus that close? Yeah, there we go. A little bit. A little bit better. It's still such a small scale, and she's going to be inside the canopy too. Now the glass is pretty clean on this. I took painstaking care to make sure that the glass remained very, very clean and clear. There are some fingerprints on the outside that I can get rid of, but took a lot to keep that clean. I had to mask everything perfectly, make sure there was no overspray getting anywhere on the glass, because there was the masking set had masking for the inside and outside of each piece. So that's why I only took the once I got the majority of it painted, I only took the masking off of the inside. I left all the outside mask on while I did the rest of the weathering and stuff like that, so the canopy would stay nice and clean. I did a little bit of dusting around the top here. As you can see, there's a little bit of dirt in some of the window panes, but these glass panes were made to open. If you watch the movie, they actually open up. They don't on the kit, but that's what the handrails are for. So there's little handrails inside to kind of pull the windows closed, or manually if you need be. You know, they were automatic, but I'm sure those guardrails or something like that were installed in there, and that was some of the photo etch that I had to put in. So let's see where we're at here. At 7:30. We started a little bit later today. Traffic was horrid. I actually had to change the start time on the fly, because I originally set it for 6:15 Pacific, but I had to change it to 6:30 because I had to stop and get gas, and I knew it, and traffic was just horrible. Horrible. Actually, I do need a little bit more gray on here. Pilot's suit is not quite as gray, or the highlights anyway, so I'm going to do a little bit more on the sides of his legs. These will be exposed, so you will see these. His back not so much because he'll be in the seat, but sides of his thighs and his shoes missed the top of his feet and stuff. So all that will be visible. put a little bit more of this gray on. All right. That looks better. Okay. So let me clean this brush before I forget. It's kind of crazy how this pigment comes out almost like paint. You see it just flow off the brush and float away in the lacquer thinner. Because ultimately it's just an oily kind of powder. It's like a... So here's the funny part. I've got arms for each one of these figures. So there's only one arm for the female character. This is her left arm. And I suppose I could do the highlights on each one of these for now, and then touch them up later if I need to. So I'm going to go back and grab this brush again. Already painted the RE100 Lindworm and the RE100 Rabu. I remember you work on the Rebawu. I remember you saying that one. I don't remember the Lindworm. So that must have been something you picked up or started while I was still doing night shift and stuff like that. Now I just need the RE100 Babu mass production type. Oh, cool. Include said that would be cool. You made it back. Space Kitty has returned. Well, cool deal. Still here. Started a little bit late, so I'm going to keep running over just a little bit. So finished kind of touching up all the suits. Now I'm just going over. There's all the arms that are detached for each one of these characters. So I'm just going to going over with the gray to match their suits, and then when it comes time to glue them on, I'll have minimal touch up. And each one of these is numbered. So number 3 here, this is for, I think, the pilot. So yeah, each number, like the pilot coincides, or each number, the pilot's number 3, each one has, a number 1 through 4, and their arms are numbered in corresponding order so you don't get them confused, which makes it nice. Like I said, I think Green Strawberry did an excellent job with this kit. These resin figures are super detailed for this scale, and they just, the details is amazing, and they've really done a good job with the construction of it, so you don't get confused. Like, you don't know which arm set goes with which figure because they're all labeled appropriately, so it makes it easy. George, bro, Nigel. Oh, Nigel jumped in. Where did Nigel jump in? He's Space Kitty. See, he's on his Space Kitty account. It's confusing the hell out of me. So I'm used to seeing Nigel pop up. Did get that right, didn't I? You have to forgive me. I'm an old man. Five weeks of dirt and heat is taking it out of me at the Renaissance Fair. So settling into the day shift again, I'm taking the reins on the express team at my work, and that's turning out well. Been given quite a few duties and reports to handle from my boss, and at first it seemed a little bit, kind of not overwhelming, but just like, oh gosh, I haven't even gotten good at what I started with, and now I'm getting handed more responsibility. But as it is, not too bad. I'm getting quicker at doing the reports and stuff like that. So as time goes on, those things are becoming easier to complete. It seems like I have more time left in the day to make sure the team's doing what they're doing. And then I'm also taping the floors and stuff like that. So I'm spending about 25% of my day doing the floors, where instead of what was quite a bit of my day before, now is less time. So dedicated more to doing the administrative stuff, and then getting small account just name change back to the original on your new phone. Oh, that's right. I forgot you got a new phone. So I'm just doing the same highlights on the arms for each one of these figures. And I'm going to clean this brush one last time. I keep saying that, and I do something else. And then we'll see. Maybe I'll actually glue one of the figures in. I still got a little bit of work to do. Before I clean this brush. Now, the figure for this female character, she's got black hair, but there's a little bit of, I think it would look better with a little bit of highlight, just a touch, just to bring out the kind of, because she's got dreads, but you can't really see that in the figure. But there's some nice lines in her hair where, you know, where the rows of how she did her hair that is molded really well in this figure. So just by kind of touching this up a little bit, it's gonna highlight those. So there we go, just a tiny bit. Let's see if you can get a close-up of that. So that's the back of her head. So you can actually see the rows. Come on, focus. Don't focus on my fingers. Focus on the figure. That's not gonna now. There we go. I guess that's good. All right, now I'm gonna do this. All right. So I'm gonna clean this brush, and then see if I can clip her off of the base and get her. Granted, I still got an arm to attach, but I can do that while she's in the seat, because I don't know exactly where her arm needs to position, because where the canopy comes on, I don't know if she's kind of holding on to a handrail or what. So I'm going to put her in the seat and kind of get an idea. So for this, because these aren't terribly large clips, I'm going to use my regular God hand clippers to kind of take her off this, but I have to do a little bit of sanding for her feet. Gosh, there's no straightforward angle here. This is kind of scary. Can we close up with those figures? Which figures? All the rest of them? I was showing them off one at a time, but again, you might not have been here. So yes, I can do a close-up. So here is the pilot. I'm still not done with him. I've got to do some more work with his headgear. Because he's wearing not a helmet, but he's wearing like headphones, and he's got two boom mics, one on each side. And obviously his arms are not attached because I've got to put him in the seat first. So here's the kid with his fully stretched out leg, kind of halfway up the ramp. I think he's looking the best out of all these because of the hair. The highlights in the hair look really nice. The face looks good. There's a lot of detail in the suit. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying earlier, Nigel. It was just like there's so much detail for 1/72 scale. Here's Josh Brolin's character. So he's obviously not arms attached, but I got to do some face painting on him too, because he's still got part of his goatee exposed. I got to paint that either white or gray, just to highlight his facial hair, and then a little bit in his hair. Silly YouTube didn't show my message that I wrote when the original message popped up. Oh, which one? The great detail one or something else? That's funny. So anyway, that's all the close-ups there. They're all just really brilliantly printed, or I keep saying printed, but molded because these are not printed. Well, they might be printed, but they look like molded figures. I did all the cleanup on them a while back when I had to do all the resin stuff. I put it all in a little bin and soaked them with purple power. So now I'm going to clip this at the angle of her heels. Whew. Trying to preserve that angle. So there we go. All for that. Now, the feet will be kind of laying flat. Yeah, she's almost sitting, kind of leaning toward the window. But I did clip this one a little bit high. I'm going to clip a little more off here. There we go. That's better. So I had a little bit too much resin there, but now I've got a nice flat base. So I'm just going to take this and just kind of going over her feet to get the same. Looks like she's kind of leaning. You see how she's kind of one leg's a little bit longer than the other. She's kind of leaning out the window. So I'm going to take this and put her in the seat here just to kind of see what it looks like before. Because again, I'm going to also try to get those seatbelts on, but I don't know if that's going to be a possibility. So with her in the seat, she's almost looks like her leg is kind of in the center aisle. But I can turn her. Gosh, the seats are almost too high. It's like her feet are off of the ground. And even if I put her right up against the window, she's kind of leaning forward. I'll see if I can bring that up where you can see it. She's kind of leaning forward, but leaning to her left toward the glass, which is fine. That's kind of what I expected. So if I try to straighten her in the seat too much, then I think she's got to sit. It's almost like she's sitting. It's almost like she's sitting with one leg. Her right leg is off the seat to the right and kind of in the center aisle. And then her butt's in the seat, but then her left leg's on the flat, which looks okay. I mean, even though her legs aren't quite long enough to go all the way to the ground, they're still kind of up a little bit, but there's not a whole lot I can do about that because the resin, the seats are as high as they are. That's just the way they made them. And I cut the seats at the bottom of the seat and made them level, each one of them level before I glued them in. So I don't think the seat belts are going to be an option here. I think I'm going to leave them off. But I put her legs there. Then I can glue her arm on at any angle, really. So I think, let's see, this one, this is her arm. Let me put this down real quick. So she's got one arm. I don't need this anymore. So this, yeah, it's just almost like, it's almost kind of at her side, really. The arm is bent. I'm trying to see this. I don't really see a problem with the angle. It's almost like her arm's bent, but kind of on her knee. Like you say you had your arm bent with your left arm bent with your hand on your knee. I think your left knee. I think that's what it kind of entails. So she's looking out the window. I mean, you can kind of see it again. See how her leg's kind of off. Like her left leg is in the center of the seat, going down the middle, and then her right leg is kind of off the seat in the aisle. And then her head is turned looking left out the glass. So her left arm will be kind of bent and on her knee. Well, this should be fairly easy to attach. I just gotta, I think that's the best I'm gonna get. If I put her forward, if I bring her forward, well, there we go. If I bring her forward, her feet kind of go down on the floor a little bit more. Well, not really. Just trying to see if there's a way to get her feet flat. But the problem is there's a hole in the center of the floor, like where it goes forward to the pilot seat. And, oops, I knew that was coming. So if I turn her too much or have her too far forward, then her foot's not even just hovering over this open area. So I think the only other way I can do it is maybe sand her bottom down a little bit so she sits down in the seat more. Might put her feet flat on the ground. There we go. If I have her positioned where her legs going all the way across the aisle, then it's more almost on the ground. So I might actually take a little bit of material off the seat of her, her seat, basically, not the seat that she's sitting in, but her bottom, basically to get her to sit down further in the seat, and that will put her feet on the ground a little bit better than they would have been. It's like she's propping herself with her right leg, and she's like, yeah, exactly. It's almost like you're trying to lean out and look out the seat, so you kind of put your leg out to kind of platform yourself and push forward and lean forward. I think that's exactly what's going on here. So in order to get her feet on the ground completely, I can almost pull her forward. It's almost like if I just barely pull her forward out of the seat, she almost stands up on the flats of her shoes. But it's so close. So close. I'm not sure you would see a gap there through the glass or not, but if I can help it, I'll try to get her to sit down in there a little bit better. I can almost push her down. And there we go. Now that's almost turned almost sideways now. Wow, that actually worked out pretty good. I might actually leave that. So here's another position. So she's turned even more. So now her left leg is flat on the ground. Her right leg is in the center aisle back, like almost between the seats, and then she's still turned looking left. It might actually work. It popped up off the ground now. See, so it's really touch and go. So it's like as soon as I move it, it wants to shift. But that's almost right on the ground right there. Let me see if I can bring it. I'm not going to tilt it because she'll walk out of position, but both feet are almost straight on the ground. So she's leaning forward kind of, but slid over to the left or assuming the right of the seat a little bit. So whatever you think about the scenario. Yeah. If you're watching the movie, and she's kind of moving around in the seat a little bit. So I like your thought process there, Nigel. Let's see. I'm checking the P-Bandai website. For 2 weeks, maybe they reprint the by mass production. Yeah, you never know. It's like it took forever for them to reprint the the O, but I did finally get my hands on one of those. And that was kind of a bummer too, because I ordered mine pre-order. It was a pre-order for the reprint. I ordered it and I waited an entire year. And they kept saying, "Well, we're sorry. We're going to send you one. We're going to send you one. We're going to send you one. We're going to send you one." And I waited and waited and waited. It was an entire year, and I said, "All right, I'm done waiting. Give me a refund." They gave me a refund. Not a week later, it pops up on the website again. "Oh, look what we got back in stock." I'm like, "You mother effers!" So I paid a little more because I got the O instead of my my original pre-order was less, but I had to pay more for it because I already got a full refund. And I was like, "You guys suck." So thank you, USA Gundam Store. You suck. And then just the other day, I bought some paint from them, and I'd forgotten that they have flat rate shipping. So I ordered some paint for this kit, or maybe even the next one, and had to pay extortionary shipping price for that, because of course it was flat rate shipping at like $10 or whatever for 2 bottles of paint. So don't forget that when you go to have your stuff shipped from USA Gundam Store. Just remember, it's flat rate shipping. So put everything you can in a box. In the movie, she's trying to keep track of the oncoming worm. Right. I almost have to go back and watch it again to see how she shifts around in the seat. But I think I think the position she's in. Let me take a picture of this. Maybe I can show that on screen a little bit better. So I'm going to brighten it up so it's a little bit brighter. But she's looking to, you see she's looking to the left. So her left leg is almost right in the center, a little bit off center to the left still, but it's almost like she's shifted and put her right leg between the seats, leaning forward even more. That's the closest I could get her feet to the ground, was in that position there. So it's almost like she's not really sitting in the seat. It's almost like she's just leaning forward, kind of almost standing up a little bit to see what's going on. So that might be my best option, but I'll play around with it a little bit and see. Well, that's pretty cool. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to wrap things up here. I think we managed to do quite a little bit, even though it's mostly just highlighting these figures, doing a little bit of hand painting. But yeah, let's bring it up here. We'll go back to the down look, see where we're at. Still chaos. Got all the wings done, and it's interesting the way these the wing receivers, the angle of them really spreads out the wings a lot more than you could with the original kit, because that block that they were mounted to only allowed a little bit of flexibility. So they were mostly, the wings were expanded a little bit, but still pretty narrow width. Whereas with this setup, they're really wide open, and it really makes them look dynamic, like they're actually flying. So great stream. Thank you very much, Nigel. I appreciate you coming in. Now you got your new phone. We're all good to go there. So let me start off. Let me go back to the top here. And Seacross. I'm going to say Seacross. I think that's correct. Was first in tonight. Thank you again for joining in. It's been a minute. I'm glad to see you. And gray hair, yep. You bet. Dark suit and gray hair. So they were in there. Then George jumped in after that. We got Giovanni. Going down the list here. I'm just making sure I don't miss anybody, but I'm pretty sure that was it, along with Nigel. Made it back. So yeah, a little light crew tonight. Not the usual. Maybe some of the guys are watching Tim on his live stream. I'm sure he's going strong right now. He goes for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. But anyway, I don't do that as long. But anyway, we'll keep going on this. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for joining in again. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for the continued support. As always, like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends. We'll keep this thing going and bump up the counts, and the algorithms, all that stuff. Click that button. Click the buttons. That's all that really matters with this thing. How was my weekend? Oh, yes, last minute here. My weekend was busy. I was actually putting away all that stuff from 5 weeks of doing Renaissance Fair. So last weekend was busy doing that. Thanks for coming in, Mike. I'm just wrapping up right now, but appreciate you. Good night, Mike. George says good night, everyone. Good night. Yeah, good night, George. Good to see you. Catch up soon, you bet. And we'll see you on the next one. So I'm going to try to do some work this weekend. I still got to do some work here at the house. I'm going to keep trying to do these figures, figure out their positioning, and try to get their arms and stuff glued on. That's going to be probably the most challenging part is trying to figure out especially the ones on the ramp, because there's a lot of variables there to make sure they look right, make sure their hands are clasped, they're actually holding hands because he's pulling them up the ramp. The pilot's pretty easy. As far as like the rest of the figures, I think the pilot is probably one of the easier ones, even though I still got to figure out the spacing there to get it right. Mike says, busy bee, no worries, man. I'll catch up with you next time. You bet. You can always catch the stream too. You can always watch it later. But the important part is, smash that like button and all that stuff like that. I really, really do appreciate it, and it does help, especially with YouTube changing some of their rules as far as their algorithms go. They're always changing stuff up to make it more interesting for us. But so fair's over now. Back to normal for this season, and we'll catch up next time. But anyway, like I always say, guys, be good humans. Catch you later. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for joining in.